Hello, my name is Jill Nitch, and this is my Module 5 for Innovative Technology Integration, Barriers to the Web 2.0. We were required to read 4 articles. Here's my summary of the first article, Barriers to the Web. Um, Basically, graduates need to be able to participate in the global economy. A lot of schools have technology. They have digital whiteboards, they have 3D printers, they have digital projectors, one-to-one computers. But unfortunately, that technology that they have is not translating to increase in test scores or instructional ability of teachers. So that's one barrier. And it talks about one of the main ways to increase instructional quality is to use the online resources available. 7 barriers that obstruct tech adoption. Number 1 is the lack of vision. A lot of schools have rushed to adopt some sort of technology, one-to-one computers, different stuff like that. And sometimes they don't have a clear vision of why they want to use that form of technology or what they want to get out of it. So first thing you need to do is to have a clear vision as to what you want to accomplish by using this technology. Another barrier is it's changing what a teacher's role should be. Teachers are becoming learners just as well. I've noticed that with myself. Probably in the last 5 years is I've had to learn different programs and forms of technology that I can use. I can remember when the last school I taught at probably 5 or 6 years ago, there were a couple of teachers that used flipped classrooms, where instead of the teacher standing up there and giving instruction during class, they videotaped themselves, and then the students were required to use that video outside of class time to watch the instruction. And then when they were in class, that's actually when they were working on an assignment. There were several math teachers that used this. And it also required the teacher to work ahead, because one of the advantages to flipped classroom is the kids can kind of work at their own pace. Also need to consider the achievement gap. Unfortunately, there are still a lot of communities that don't have internet access. And several studies have found that communities that are underdeveloped, technology is used a lot for drill and practice. It's not really used for producing anything, and not really used to help those students develop their higher thinking skills. Need to figure out how to scale promising innovations. Test scores versus creativity. Do you want to increase your test scores, or do you want the students to be able to think creatively and problem solve? Another barrier is the lack of money to invest in technology. It takes a lot of money to buy computers, and it's also going to take several years to show how that technology has improved student learning. It's going to take a while to show its worth. Teachers need to think beyond textbooks. They need to be using online resources, looking at using e-textbooks. And then you need to have a strong infrastructure in place. You need to make sure your Wi-Fi and your internet is capable for keeping up with the technology that you decided to incorporate in your vision. That all kind of goes back to number 1. If you're going to incorporate it, you got to have the infrastructure in place, and that's got to be part of your vision and part of your plan. You also have to be able to have teachers that are trained effectively in using that technology. The next one is the digital divide. Like I talked about earlier, there are still some areas in the U.S. that do not have internet access. So a lot of schools are adopting one-to-one computers where they send a device home with the student. Well, they can send that device home with the student, but if the student doesn't have internet, it's really kind of pointless for them to be able to have the computer. Adopting internet access needs to be broad reaching, just like telephones were. And then it's just going to take money. It's going to take money for companies to go out into those underdeveloped communities and rural areas and put in the internet. Open educational resources. They're created through open licenses and live in the public domain. Teachers can share and make their own products. I know several teachers at the school. I just taught to use pay teachers a lot. There's an online PE curriculum that I've been to trainings for that I use a lot. It has your objectives, equipment you need, and then instructions. They've also noticed at these open educational resource centers that there's a high increase in teachers using them at the beginning of terms, 9 weeks or semesters, because they're trying to get ideas to be able to use throughout the rest of the term. First question, can the digital divide be solved? Yes, it's going to take money and push from higher up. Your rural communities don't have a lot of competition. The community I'm getting ready to move to is much smaller than the one I've been living in, and there's one company that provides internet, and you still have to buy a landline in order to get that internet. You don't have to use the landline, but you have to pay to get it. And so I think if there was some competition from some other companies, that wouldn't be a requirement. What do students need to be able to do to be 21st century students? They need to be able to problem solve, troubleshoot. If something's going wrong, go through steps to be able to solve it. Use technology to solve global issues. To either start a program to help solve something, use 3D printer to solve a problem. They need to be a creative communicator. There's lots of different ways that you can communicate with a large group. And students need to be able to do that, and they need to be able to sequence or need to be able to code. I mean, that seems to be the current trend right now, and it's important for students to be able to know how to do that. Impact of the global economy on myself. It obviously impacts where I get things from. You know what? For Christmas, I shop a lot online. I do go to, I think it's important to support local businesses, but I get a lot of stuff online, and you know what? Some of that stuff could be from China or from India. So that's how it impacts how the global economy impacts me. And what training do I still need? I still need training on using some of the current programs. The school I'm going to uses an online program a lot, and I just need training in that, which I will be going to. And I just need to get on and use some programs. I also think it would be cool to learn how to code. I remember doing some sort of coding or sequencing when I was in high school through CAD, where you had to type in a sequence and then get a robot to pick up something and put it someplace else. I'd just like to be able to learn how to do that again. Is my school equipped? I would say yes and no. They have digital whiteboards, computers. I don't know if they have a 3D printer. Unfortunately, it's a much smaller community, so money's probably going to be an issue. I know one thing I've struggled with 15 years that I've been teaching. I've always had a Mac or some sort of Apple product, and I do not have that right now, so that is a little bit of a transition for me. And I think that just goes back to a smaller community of this computer, Chromebooks or stuff like that were a little bit cheaper. Advantages to innovative practices. I think you're getting in sync with your students because they're on a device all the time. So whether it's an iPhone, iPad, on their computer or playing a game, I think it can help students produce some pretty amazing products. And part of the way that it helps them produce those products is instructions are just a click away. They can get on the internet and figure out how to build something. So I think that's really cool, and I'm excited to see how that progresses. Disadvantages, when you incorporate some sort of technology, students are on those devices a lot, and sometimes they can't disconnect. Um, this year, I made a bet with a couple of girls that I bet you couldn't go 1 hour without being on your phone. And students start to develop lack of personal skills. They can't have a meaningful conversation with anybody because they're used to being on their phone or texting or Snapchatting or stuff like that. Have I experienced problems with students? I have not personally experienced. I know this year we had an issue at the school I taught at with some sixth grade boys where there was some bullying and intimidation stuff going on via text message. I think there's always inappropriate use. They're going to push the boundaries students are whenever they can to try to get on certain websites that they shouldn't be on. It just goes back to as teachers and administrators, I need to be able to teach them how to effectively use those products so they are not using them inappropriately. Thank you.